I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Welcome back to 5-Star Counsel. This week, we're talking with Justie Nicol of Nicol, Gersh, Peterson in Denver, Colorado. Justie focuses her practice on criminal defense, and her firm also addresses family law matters. I had Justie on the show in part to pick her brain about how she uses Typeform to speed service delivery. That led to talking about how we, as lawyers, can share the information that we know about the process with our clients so that they know what to expect. It's not just providing the information, it's providing it in a way that your client can understand. Ultimately, it's about meeting your client where they are and not where you are. Let's get to the interview. Hey, 5-Star listeners. Before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chat bots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front line so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5-STAR. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI. Hey, Justie, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, John. I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Well, we had initially thought we were going to talk about just about intake today, but in our little pre-recording session, we decided we need to talk a little bit about getting clients at ease before a hearing, because while you and I are used to going to court, clients generally don't do that very often. I mean, for probate stuff like I do, it may be once or twice in their lifetime that they go as an executor or anything like that. Your clients may have a different number of times that they go.
Yeah, criminal defense cases are much longer in length than your average probate litigation case. Sometimes you're going to court every month or two for like 2 years. So it's a lot of court, and unless you're a frequent flyer, you don't have any idea where to go when you walk into that door the first time.
Right. And the door to the front of the courthouse.
Yeah, that door, not the courtroom.
Right. We've got to get you all the way in. Plus, there are all the secrets that we know about how the building's laid out that might be helpful.
Who knew you couldn't bring a metal water bottle in to certain counties? Because it might be used as a weapon, I guess. Right. I don't know. Attorneys included. They no longer let you bring that stuff in. I mean, obviously, knives, weapons, contraband can't come into a secure building. But, like, I have a hydro flask. What is the problem with this? I like my coffee hot.
Yes.
Right? So just like how to find the security protocols for each courtroom or courthouse before you go. They're different from one side of town to the other.
Yeah. The Harris County courthouse where I do most of my probate work, the parking is across the street. And if you don't know any better, you won't know to take the parking elevator down to the basement and then take the not so secret tunnel between the two. One, you avoid rain when it's raining, or you avoid the heat, which is the bigger issue. But third, the security line, if you take the not-so-secret tunnel, is much, much shorter. Even when it's busy, it's only like 5 or 10 people versus going through the main doors. You'll have a half-hour wait minimum at times, which is crazy. And why wouldn't we think through how we can make this court date easier for our clients by having them, know the secret bits we know?
Right. Like Wednesdays are jury trial days. You're going to have 150 extra people. Get there early if we're set on a Wednesday at 8 in the morning, or if you're set in afternoon at 1 o'clock. When they first come in the morning, when they come back for lunch, like, God help us. And attorneys get to skip the line a lot of times, but our clients don't. So it doesn't do me any good to be up in the courtroom waiting for somebody who's stuck in the security line for like 20 extra minutes and worried about getting a warrant, because that will cause someone to have a heart attack in the security line.
Right. So are you still going to physical court now?
I have gone to court a handful of times because I will not go virtual while my clients are being sentenced with the possibility of jail. If there is a plea negotiation where there's no jail, straight probation, nothing up to the judge, or only, like community service up to the judge, we'll do it on WebEx or Microsoft Teams. Some of my rural jurisdictions, because I'm in about a third of the state of Colorado, actually require in person unless it's over phone. They are not set up for WebEx, which is absolutely crazy to me. But I've done a few phone hearings, and anytime my clients are getting sentenced and there's a possibility of jail, I'm going to be right there by their side. Like, I'll mask up and douse myself in hand sanitizer, but I'll be there just in case. And luckily, no one has gone to jail yet. So it has paid off. I'm like the lucky charm.
So is it really, in part, it is solidarity with your client, but is it also things you can't do on WebEx or phone because you've got the prosecutor and judge there, and it's easier to do whatever it is you do?
Yeah, it's really annoying when you're midway through a hearing in WebEx and your client says, wait, I have a question. And you have to mute yourself and take yourself off camera and grab a phone and call them off the record. And a lot of people, we're prepping for WebEx kind of the way we prep for in-person stuff, which we talk people through where we're going to meet you at the courthouse, what this looks like, which security line to take. We're doing that for WebEx too. This is the link you need to try. You need to make sure your camera works. If your camera doesn't work on your computer, do you have a backup? Can you use your phone? Do you have good internet service? And then it's like, give it like 15 minutes beforehand to really get in there and get working on it. But the problem is, if they're on their phone on WebEx, how am I going to call them? Right? And they almost have to leave the meeting and then get logged back in again. So I'm like prepping people for that. I can't prep the judges for that. And some of them are better than others with the technology and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, what is helpful is just my clients all know, don't put anything in the chat, because the administrators on all of these have access to the chat and it is not confidential. So even though you're thinking, hey, I'm messaging my attorney privately, sorry, nope, it says private, but it's not. And so that's probably the number one tip we're telling people now. You can't just whisper to me in my ear at the podium. We actually have to step away from everything. And there's a whole nother phone call and system involved and more opportunities for failure. And it just takes longer.
Right. It's not just knowing the process of what you have to do to get logged in, because that part's almost easy enough with WebEx Zoom. You had to do that anyway with in-person. Now there are not, the old risks, but now surfacing in new and different ways. So
yeah,
you could have had your client handwrite a note to you before, and I know plenty of litigators who just kind of leave their clients at the table and just give them a pad of 3x3 Post-its, and just whenever you think of something, write it down.
Yep.
Just write it down and put it in front of me. I'll see it when I have a chance to stop and think about it. So new versions of old risks, and probably also just new frustrations in the how do we even do this?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where not a lot of criminal defendants are very technologically savvy anyway.
Right.
My my clients have an average reading level about 7th grade. So, we're talking in simple terms about how to log in. We're making sure they tested in advance. We are really just trying to hold their hand through the logistics of it, right? Client service isn't so much just about being a great lawyer. Clients don't recognize good lawyering in court. They hear you make an argument and they're just waiting for the judge to say yay or nay, right? They don't, or the jury in my case, right? They don't, I don't know what a hearsay objection is. But the logistics of it, this is how trial works, right? I'm going to get up and I'll do the direct examination. Then the prosecutor will do cross-examination, and then I get to go again. So if there's anything that you feel you didn't get to say, you hold it for when I'm there. Just don't get in a fight and a pissing contest with your prosecutor because it's not going to end well. So those kinds of logistics, it used to be reserved for trial prep. It used to be reserved for getting somebody to testify. But really, when you're talking about doing a client's a service, it starts the moment they retain you, and it goes through virtual court, in-person court, testimony prep, just what to expect.
Right.
What to expect when you're expecting court.
Right. Right. I mean, it's already going to be a stressful situation for them. How can we tone it down, make it easier for them, even if, for you, obviously, there's something on the line far greater than generally my clients or the people I'm dealing with. At worst, we don't get our orders signed that day because I'm doing uncontested work. But, I mean, I have a hearing coming up in a few weeks for an airship. And here in Texas, that requires we have not only our proposed administrator, but also 2 disinterested witnesses who can tell the court about family life and things like that. Now, one of my witnesses is going to be a commercial litigator, somebody who's normally in the court, and he said he's going to need a lot of prep for this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is somebody who gets paid to be in court all the time and has been doing it for a while. He's nervous about this hearing, where to me it's like, look, I'm going to send you the questions beforehand. This won't be an issue. I'm going to walk through all these questions. In the old times, in the before times, before this hearing, the attorney ad litem and I would have walked through all of the questions with all 3 of the witnesses outside the courtroom before we walk in, because nobody needs to worry about that. And it's not meant to be a big issue for them, but taking that step and telling clients and witnesses, here are the questions, read over them. They're not meant to be scary. Right. I will have those questions in front of you, in front of the judge, because you won't even be in the witness box. You're going to be standing right in front of the judge during the hearing.
Your questioning is very different from mine. No, I mean, that's where people think they need prep, right? Is like, oh God, I'm testifying. This is nerve-wracking. And I'll attest to it. I have testified, right? Like a number of times. I have even testified in front of attorney regulation, not my own issue, but other attorneys, right? And it is terrifying to sit there for 2 days and wait for your turn to be cross-examined, right? And I'm not even the one whose license is on the line, right? It's just a big deal.
Right.
But what I found helpful, and this is what we're kind of in the process of doing, is we are building infographics and branded materials that we can send to clients in bite-sized chunks to get those kind of put their mind at ease and get those standard questions out of the way. This is how you check in Social Security. This is what you don't bring with you. On the other end of things, this is how you testify, right? I have a full-on branded 1-pager that I give to every single witness, whether it's my client, their spouse, or a lay witness. If they're friendly with the defense, I have done a meeting with them where we've talked broadly about the subject. I have then gone back and kind of outlined broad topics, because criminal defense, I could have somebody on the stand for hours. So I don't write my questions in advance. I don't script it, but I do bullet point it for them. And these are generally the topics that I want to hit with you. And then I put direct quotes from our meeting that they said below that. And I give that to them with a sidebar about general tips for testifying, right? Don't talk over each other. Don't interrupt the judge. If there's an objection, stop talking right then. Wait for the ruling. If you don't remember the question or where you were, ask. Simple things like that. But people learn in different ways, right? Some people will learn from hearing this. Other people will learn because they read it. Other people will learn if, they memorize an acronym or something, or they hear a catchy song that plays with it. I mean, it's auditory, it's visual. I remember things really well if I write it down. So that helps me trial prep too, and keeps us all on the same page. I want to know what my clients do with it after I give them the branded PDFs, though. I'm sure they probably shred it. But half of it is just, listening to them and, belaying their fears. So that's trying to make their minds a little bit more restful.
Right.
At every step of the game, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, how can we make it easier for them in ways that, just they don't want to, even my clients don't want to go to court for uncontested things. The easier we can make it for them, the better. And so that's why we want to just have thought through the process more than just on our side, knowing, all right, well, we're going to this hearing next week. We're going to have to be able to produce this, which means the step before that is we've got to have our probate hearing questions ready, which means we need to, spend the 5 minutes getting those pulled up and then send them to the client so that they can look at them and say, we're going to talk through these with you. Even though these are all yes/no questions or things you should know by heart, you still may want to talk through this and make sure you know what's going to happen. Though there was a thing a few years ago, I had a hearing in the judge's chambers for a probate hearing. And so we were sitting at the conference table. The judge was at the head. I was on one side. My clients were on the other as proposed administrators or executors. The judge swore them in and said, look, your attorney's going to ask you a few questions. And if you get them wrong, the judge will kick you. You'll change your answers and we'll keep on going. And, that was meant to put them at ease. I was going to be fine either way, but it would have been nice knowing,
you could have redo it. That's awesome.
Right. And,
get a mulligan.
For most of what we do, the clients need to know, for most of what I do, the clients should know this is fine. The court just needs to get certain words said in court on the record so that they can sign other things and we can all move on.
Yeah. This is it's different, right? All clients are different in some respects based on the type of law that we do, right? But their underlying fears are often the same. It's right. Uncertainty of the unknown.
Right.
Right. They're not prepared. And whatever we can do to make that better. Like I like the guy's idea on Twitter that I was telling about in the call, where just a video of this is where you line up for security when you walk in that front door. This is where the courtrooms are, where the elevators are. And then this is where the court clerk sits when you walk through. Like, are they inside the courtroom or are they outside the courtroom? Where do I check in to let them know I'm here so that I don't get arrested for not coming to court? That kind of stuff, like I can just do a video walkthrough and put that in my newsletter. So you just have to get court permission and, this COVID, right. Everything has to be over.
Right.
But eventually that will happen. We'll have a series of videos for every courthouse that we practice. We'll have an info page on our website.
Right.
The video.
Right. Oh, interesting. So you'd even go as far as to add, I don't even remember any of the counties in Colorado. So I'll say, Mining County and Boulder County and Buffalo County, courts 1 through 3 for Buffalo County, Colorado. Yep. Here's what to expect. Current judge name, things like that, perhaps.
Yeah, and then just like the Muni Court in Loveland is on one floor and county court's on another floor. They're not even the same jurisdiction, so they don't transfer cases back and forth to each other, but it was just easier to build one courthouse.
Right.
So I'm just like, I don't know what you guys are doing, but like where I'm going to meet my clients, right? Depending on the jurisdiction. I practice in both, so it's easy to be like, go here for Muni. Go here for there. And then you don't have to worry about asking somebody with a gun strapped to their hip about where you're supposed to go. Because there's often not an information person. It is just like security with a taser.
Right. So, we've taken this nice, wonderful tangent on how to make clients comfortable when we're going to move the needle for them in court. But we thought we were going to talk more about intake on the way in. And so I know you've got some good ideas. One of the things that I've learned from you is your reliance and extensive use of Typeform to make things easier. So I think I'd just start with, how much do you use Typeform and where are you going with it?
We use Typeform daily. It goes to a number of different platforms for us. And it's actually gotten a lot more robust even since you and I first met, because we launched the family law practice to go along with our criminal defense practice in the middle of COVID, because why not? Like, I don't have enough to do. At least I don't have to drive to court, so I have a little bit more time to make the Typeform even better. So we use a remote receptionist service, Smith AI, and they use the Typeform for us as well. And then our website also has the Typeform built in as the contact form. I hate the WordPress contact us form. Blah. They're horrible. You don't get enough info. They're awful. And they serve no purpose. So there's still so much follow-up on the back end. It takes out all efficiency. So Typeform for us is just an easy way to collect the initial information that you need to open a case and know that you don't have a conflict before you do a consult. So our intake is basically a two-step process, no matter how you contact us. Typeform, answer about 10 questions, a lot of subparts in there. More subparts than there used to be, because it turns out family law, you need a lot more information. And then the second step is you go to our acuity scheduling page and you pick, what kind of case you need help with, and it gets you to the right attorney because we have it set up on the back end that way.
Got it.
So, yeah, I mean, Typeform is, once you get in there, you can do logic jumps. You can do, it's like a choose your own adventure book. Honestly, when we were kids, right? Like I read those like crazy.
Right.
And depending on your answer, you go back and you can start over again and have a completely different, I read them both ways from the very beginning, but it kind of takes you down different paths based on what you need. And for us, it's a little different too, because not only do we launch family law, we are also launching some DIY services. So that'll be up within probably a week or so. Our website will have a whole legal DIY field, a section for criminal defense. And in addition to that, we are partnering with Hello Divorce to bring DIY to family law side of things as well.
Excellent.
So yeah, Typeform handles all of that, believe it or not.
Yeah, and one of the things that I got was the WordPress Contact Me form rarely yielded anything useful. For about, for the one good contact I'd get about 30 or 40 spam messages that just filled my inbox and then generated another lead to track in Clio Grow. So taking that down and replacing it with something that filters out the spam bots much more effectively obviously yields back some time to you, because sure, you do want that contact me form, but you want more of it. So
yeah, I mean, we're asking questions about what jurisdiction is your case in? Have you gone to court already? Who is the other party? Who are the witnesses? Obviously for conflict checks. But then also, like, when is your next court date? So we know if it's an urgent matter. And then we're also usually asking, like, long form narrative, what's going on. So I get a sentence or two from the consult itself. I mean, I did one right before this podcast where I think it's going to end up, it's not even going to be criminal. It's going to be legal DIY. She's not even been contacted by the police yet. But our DIY packages are meant for that, where it's just like you get a full-on checklist of how to talk to the cops. If you are contacted by the police and you're arrested, here's the bondsman we recommend, down the line, for just like, here's a deliverable at the end of our DIY package where you can just have it check this off, and peace of mind, you can leave it on your phone and read from the PDF when you're talking to the cops. But it was like, you don't need me yet. You don't have a case. So, and under normal circumstances, that would have come in through Typeform and we would have referred it out or not taken it. Just right. Like, you don't have a ripe issue. But now we've got the legal DIY up on our Typeform, and it was like, oh, this is perfect. So I just do a quick 10-minute call. Boom, we're ready to go with a package deal. And we give you credit if you end up getting arrested against a retainer later.
Right. So, and you also mentioned that Smith is using the same Typeform, so it doesn't matter. You're getting the same information whether they come through the website or through Smith.
Yeah, and our family law partner asks very different questions than we do, and a lot of times based on what the client needs and whether there are kids or not kids, the size of the estate and that sort of stuff. And that's been a learning exercise for me, revamping our intake process to include a totally different practice area that I don't practice in and never want to. Let's just.
But you're happy to partner with somebody who does it for you.
Yes. Yep. And I'm happy to work on integrating our systems with Aaron Levine. And it was hilarious when we did our initial call. I'm like, you guys can talk family law for like 30 minutes. And then Aaron starts talking about how cases actually get to us and like the engagement letter and what that whole process looks like. And I'm like, this is why I'm here. Let's talk systems.
Right. Yeah, because if you don't know how this is going to work through, it's just going to generate, a pipe full of data that you just spew everywhere and don't pick up and do anything with.
Yeah, I mean, your systems have to talk to each other. So if it's not Typeform talking, it's Acuity talking and Smith's notes, but all of that is zapped into our Clio Grow inbox through Zapier. It's just like with people, right? Like, you got to listen to each other, and your systems all have to listen to each other. And if you can find a way to like meld what you do versus what the robots do, great, because you should be a person before you are a robot. And lawyers don't remember that they're not just, talking heads for the law. They're often horrible at empathy. And people don't want to fill out the same information 6 times, right? They don't want to tell Smith and then have to do an intake form and then have to do it again during a 30-minute call with us. That was what was so refreshing about this intake that I just did right before that. The guy was telling me, he's like, I need to tell you a little bit of the background story. I was like, here's the deal. I already have the notes here. It looks like this, and this happened. I have one question. And I cut out 10 minutes of talking about the backstory.
Right.
That's a third of the call.
Exactly. He knew he'd been heard. You recognized that he'd already said it once. And you also don't have to retype it anywhere or translate from garbage handwriting that you may have been doing. I mean, I'm personally guilty of having...
My handwriting's really good, John. I don't know about yours.
Mine is awful. But yeah, I mean, I have issues with, my staff knows that my handwriting is terrible. I know that my handwriting is terrible, so I do things to make it easier. I will type during meetings for clients, and I'm telling them, this is so I get it right while you're here. But that's when we're in data gathering mode, not just broad strokes mode.
Yeah, and I'll tell people during the intakes, if I'm doing a full 30-minute, full-blown intake, if you hear me typing in the background, it's because I type faster than I write, and I can basically take dictation from what you guys are telling me. And so I want to make sure I get all the pieces correctly, noted in the file.
Right.
And it's real time. That's the other thing that's great. I only spend 30 minutes on the phone call. I've done none of the work to get that phone call scheduled, and I do none of the work on the back end to get that client signed. I sell them, not that it's a hard sell. I'm also go and do another 4 phone calls with other attorneys. You'll be back. It's cool.
Right.
And then my staff, I drag the card in Clio Grow to generate the engagement letter, put the workflow, select which workflow I want, whether it's payment plan, credit card, pay in full, based on my conversations with the client. Because we talk about money up front, obviously, and there's no hidden fees with us. And we're just here's how we can work with you. We do a bunch of different types of financing, internal, external, interest, no interest. And we'll make it work 90% of the time. If you have funds at all and a decent enough job, we're committed to access to justice. So we're going to make that work. But my staff takes it and runs with it. As soon as it lands in their folder, they get 7 tasks to open the file and send all this stuff. And we've automated it in the past. And then when we switched to Clio, the automation needed to be redone. And I just, haven't had a chance to do that. COVID.
Things happen.
Right.
So
they'll all talk again on that end too.
Right. As we start to close this down, when you've got one intake form, it sounds like just for criminal defense.
Mm-hmm.
When you started out, was it longer or shorter than it is now? How has it transformed as you've used it?
We actually have stayed pretty steady. We have, in terms of length, we have changed what we've asked a little bit and added, I think, 1 question, because we did things like branded swag for referral partners who have sent us cases that have signed. And for a while, you ask clients where they find you and they never tell you. So we find we have to ask a number of different times, how'd you hear about us? How'd you hear about us? What we added was, who can we thank for referring you? So if somebody selects colleague or friend or family or, kind of a different source, there's a follow-up question before you come back to the rest about who can we thank. That's the only question we've added. As our marketing mix has changed, we have changed that source field quite a bit. I think the only other things that we have asked that are new are related to the family law side. Yeah, I don't think the criminal side has changed all that much. It's about 10 questions with some subparts.
Well,
but I did change the Acuity follow-up confirmation email once you've scheduled a call with us. We now send a branded PDF to somebody whenever they book a call with us. And it also asks us, it's what to expect for your consult. So 10 minutes spent on this, 15 minutes on this, 5 or 10 on this. But we ask as part of that confirmation, if you have any paperwork, please send it to us. And so I'll get reply emails now with copies of tickets attached and summonses. And that's been really helpful because people have time, instead of when they're on the phone with me, they have time to go and find the summons, take a quick photo of it and email it to me. I know what their charges are because they're responding to a confirmation email from Acuity.
Right. So you're using that. That's not through Zapier. That's something inside the scheduling software that just says the confirmation for this needs to look like this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there's an attachment. You can put whatever attachment you want.
Yeah, because then it's one less thing for you to do, but making sure they know what they're going to do. Now, look, we've come full circle, getting them prepped for a semi-stressful situation. Justie, I think this is a great place to end what we're talking about. If anybody needs to follow up with you, where can we find you?
You can find me at colawteam.com. So CO like Colorado, lawteam.com. I'm on social media at Justie for Justice. So you can find me at Twitter, Justie, the number 4, Justice. Justie is Justie.
So thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great fun.
Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcounsel.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcounsel.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.